Okay, so it is 9 a.m. in the morning, February 21st of 2026. Of course, I've been going for hours and hours and hours, but I've been basically just kind of poking around in here. And what I'm just, you know, like, we're going to back to the good old days, okay? Trying to feel a little normal here, although I'm a little tired and but that's okay. So basically, I'm just doing kitchen stuff and getting laundry ready. I wash dishes, right? And now I found a whole bunch of these, which is apple cinnamon and turmeric, because I want to start introducing teas to Amari, but of course, you know, I'm always so busy, right? Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm taking them out of these little containers, because there's a whole bunch of them here. Save this part for crafts, because I really want to do crafts downstairs with the kids. So I'll save these, flatten them out, you know, maybe at Christmas time or something like that. You know, you can put two together, you glue them together, and then you can make little snowflakes or something. Yeah, I'm just saying. Okay, so I have a jar. So I'm opening this up. I'm going to take all these tea bags, which smell very nice. Right, now they've been there for a while. And what I'm going to do, and I've already got a jar full of peppermint. I do have a jar full of chamomile, and I've got other old teas kicking around. But I want them in a mason jar, right? Because, you know, you can vacuum seal them if you want. And then they just stay fresher. And because we've got the basement and we're going to do crafts, hopefully, and I've got old flour that I don't need because it's old, we can do paper mache maybe and make, I don't know, penny holders. Make it a game. Hunt for pennies. See if you can find a penny. And every time you find a penny, put it in there. Right? So that's what we're going to do. So I will save these, which will take up space, get me into trouble. You know how it goes. But it's a craft that doesn't really cost anything outside of your time, you know. And yeah, so I will just save those and I will flatten them. And then I'll put all these little containers into a bag and take them downstairs, put them in the Tisha's room where all the craft stuff is. I'm going to have to probably get some, oh boy, this really smells strong. I'll have to get some, oh shit. I'll have to get some, probably some more Rubbermaid bins. Oh, where are they? Something dropped. I'll leave these ones out. Right? And then after that, after I do this, because I'm sorting out all these jars that I, you know, just clearing off the counter, right? A little bit anyway, for now. Just reorganizing whatever. And then I'm making a Comfrey, kind of like a poultice more than a slab. I think a slab is like that with the cocoa butter or the beeswax, and you know, I'm not making that. I'm making more like a poultice, only I'm not using Comfrey leaves. I don't know where they are right now, but I am using Comfrey root that I bought from Organic Matters that came from Brazil. Those came from Brazil. Yeah. And I'm making it for Andre's shoulder. And because Marcane's joints pop a lot. A lot, really. For me, it's concerning, but I guess for some people it's just that way, and for him it is. So I told him that when I make this, I'm going to give him some, and he needs to try it out. Give it a chance. Right? I'm making some of this for Andre, which he can start using it today for this area in here that bothers him. Right? He tends to pick up Amari quite a bit. So I told him, or he moves him. If Amari flips himself around on the couch, Andre will just pick up Amari and turn him around and move him. I told him, versus picking him up and turning him around and moving him, you need to shimmy him around. And then if you pull him up after you shimmied him around, use your left hand versus your right hand. Right? Just to give your arm a chance. And then of course he plays a lot of computer too, right? So that could be an issue as well, because it's a repetitive movement all the time, right? So I'm going to use Comfrey, which I already boiled some water. Put the Comfrey in the water, the Comfrey root that is, in the water, and then boiled it for a little bit. It bubbled up real fast, so I boiled it for a little bit, and then I just turned it off and it's in a cast iron, right? Little pot, Amari's little pot, that little red one I bought, so cute. And what do you call it? It's been just sitting there now. So it's cooled down. So now that it's cooled down, after I do this, I am going to grind it up in Amari's grinder, because it's soft now, right? Turn it into a paste. And I'm going to put it in a turn it into a paste. And then I'm going to add some turmeric to it. Yeah. Definitely going to add some turmeric to it. Just for that healing property. Right? I wanted to add a little warmth to it, but like you can use cayenne pepper to give it heat if you wanted to, for soothing, right? Just to soothe. Or I would suspect ginger, right? So I may add just a little bit of ginger powder, maybe. I don't know where my cayenne pepper is right now. I think it's in there. But I'm just going to keep it simple for now. I'm just going to do the Comfrey, some turmeric powder. Oh yeah, I'm not going to do ginger, because what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to make it kind of, you don't want it to mold, right? You don't want it to mold, eh? So, I'm thinking of, you know, when I used to do black walnut husks, right? And I'd make my black walnut ink powder, and then I'd make black walnut stain or ink. You do a ratio of 1 to 10. So 9 parts water, 1 part alcohol, 40% and above. Right? Obviously, the stronger the alcohol, the better it is, but I can only buy 40% vodka. So I just used the 40% vodka. And guess what I got? I have vodka in my room in case of an emergency and the fire department comes to my house and says, "Do you have any disinfectant? Because, you know, it's chaos out in the streets because the grid went down, and we've got a lot of people that are injured in our little triage center over there, and we're short on disinfectant. Is there anything that you can provide for us? Or maybe I might need it for one of my family members. I'd be coming out with this big ass bottle of vodka. I'd be like, here, there you go. And remember that time when you were harassing me? But that's okay. It's an emergency, so I understand. You know, anyway, I'm just being cocky, right? I don't want to open up a big ass bottle of vodka for what I'm doing here right now, because this is just testing things out, right? Just testing it out. So I am going to use some of my homemade vanilla extract that I made in, when did I do it? 2021. Now, I never decanted it. Okay, that means put it through a strainer and took out the vanilla beans. Whatever. And it looks like this one is spicy rum. Spicy rum. Because I tried spicy rum, and I tried vodka, like 2 different kinds, right? I brought this one up from downstairs. I was going to re-jar it up, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just going to use that as a, I don't know what you would call it. I mean, I suppose I could try and find some alcohol, rubbing alcohol or something like that, but I don't want to be hunting around for shit right now. I really don't. Okay, so I'm just going to leave those out in this little container and put them in here. Those 2 that I dropped. Okay, I'll just put them in here. And we'll work with those ones. So I got rid of all those little containers, and I filled up the jar. There. Nice. Just have to put a label on it. So I'll do that so I don't forget what's in there. And then I've got a few peach, but I don't know. I have to look around, right? Because I have other teas. And I have peppermint tea. I don't know what I did with it. But when I find it, I'm going to keep them all together. Right? So right now, we're going to work on that. Well, I'm going to see, there's turmeric powder right there, right? So we got comfrey, some turmeric powder, and some vanilla extract with spicy rum, so that the alcohol in the rum will prevent the poultice from molding. Plus, it's going to make it smell good, right? So, and because I'm just experimenting right now. All right, so hold on. Okay. So now it is February 22nd, 2026. How many days has this been going on for? And I'm telling you, I'm putting in long ass hours. It's like a power saw, just, oh, I'm getting tired though, man. Anyway, you told me you weren't gonna do that no more, Mom. Yeah, well, I'm at the end of my food prepping days here, pretty much. So I just topped it off with 44 pounds of organic rye kernels, right? Because we like to eat rye bread. And I buy it, like, regularly. I pay $6 I paid $6 a loaf for rye bread. Soon I won't have to buy it, and it will be better to make it ourselves versus buy it, but for now I still buy it. And then just plain old French bread. I think this one's been cut. $1.50. Anyway. Yeah. And then 44 pounds of red whole lentils. So the rye kernels are organic, but the whole red lentils are not. That's like those green whole lentils that I bought just recently, right? So I have these boxes, right? I haven't had a chance to do anything with them yet. And they're in the line of fire when it comes to that quote-unquote path, right? So if I had no food in the house, then everybody would be using that against me, you know. But because I have food in the house and a little backup, well, it can become problematic, right? Because it takes up space. But besides that point, whatever. So I haven't sprouted those other things yet. I just have them in here in little bags to suggest what they are. So when I get more caught up with things, we'll sprout the chickpeas from 2011. They were really good. I cooked them up. They didn't really soften when I cooked them, and I cooked them for a while, right? And that's not unusual for older beans and those types of things to be like that. Like, you know, they're edible, right? But because they're older, they tend to take longer to cook and yada yada. But the secret to that was you cook them up however long, hour and a half or whatever, doesn't matter. And then obviously strain them, put them in the fridge, and then you put them after the fact into soup or something, or into another liquid, and you cook them again, and oh man, they're so good. So soft and so good. Oh yeah. So no regrets, people. No regrets. 2011, those things were delicious. You just have to learn how to cook them right, that's all. If you want them soft, that is. And they were delicious. So anyway, that would be applicable to any kind of bean, mung beans, kidney beans, lima beans, soya beans, whole dried peas, split peas, all of it, right? Right. Don't let, I don't want to say propaganda fool you, but, you know, you can't, you know, just because somebody says, oh, it's past its expiration date. Oh my God, 44 pounds. I don't know if this is I think this is the wheat kernels. They've been sitting there by my front door on the floor. I gotta get them out of the bag. Right now I want the whole I'm looking for the whole red lentils because I've got a bucket here. Just enough room for a small bag of whole red lentils, and then that bucket can go downstairs. And there's I'm trying to like revamp my bucket so I can end up putting these in buckets, and whatever I can't put in buckets or whatever I take out of, I'm just gonna take those things that are in Mylar bags and put them in one big ass Mylar bag, and they can go downstairs like that. Right? Oh no, red lentils. Here we go. This is exactly what I want. Oh. So I'm going to start with this. So this is what I have to do today. I went next door to my neighbors. Look what I got. Some vodka. For my poultice. I probably won't need no more than this. But he gave me backup just in case, right? And what this is, because I'm using comfrey root from Brazil, organic, and some turmeric powder, and a little bit of ginger powder, I decided not to use the homemade spicy rum vanilla extract because of the rum. I don't think, in terms of, oh my god, I am not up for this. Ooh. In terms of, you know, the alcohol content and spicy rum, I would think it'd still be 40%. But I just was really hoping I could get a little bit of vodka and use that instead. And what that's meant for is based on the same principle as if you were working with black walnut husk and making a stain or a ink powder, like an ink, not an ink, but from the, you know, from the powder, right, of the walnut husk. Because walnut, any part of the walnut really, like the shell, just the husk, right, it tends to have its own mold, which is a natural protective towards pests. The black walnut only has one natural pest in terms of it's a fly that lives under the walnut tree, and then when they hatch, what they do is they, you know, when the walnuts fall, right, the larva is in the husk, and what they do is they go into the ground. Anyway, it's a cycle every year, right, where eventually those larvae, they hatch, I guess, in the spring or something, and then they fly up and they get into the walnut husks, right? That's the only natural predator to the walnut, whether English walnut or black walnut, outside of animals chewing into the husk, trying to get into the nut. And because the black walnut is a very hard nut. Oh my god, it's so hard. It's really hard for things to get inside into it. But if they, you know, like a raccoon or something chews, or a squirrel, they chew long enough, they'll get in there, right? Not so much those larvae, they like to live in the husk. So anyway, if you use a little bit of alcohol when you make your ink and your stains, the ratio I said was 1 to 10, like, you know, 1 to 10 parts. So 9 parts walnut stain, walnut ink, to 1 part a little bit of alcohol, right? Obviously, the higher the percentage of the alcohol, they say the better, but 40% is fine, because that's what this is. That's what it should be anyway. 40%. Yeah, 40% alcohol. That's all you need. So with that, that's what I'm going to put in with, I lost the note. How the hell did I lose it? Here it is. With that, that's all you need to cut back on the comfrey root, the powders in the water, because I'm not using oil, right? In the event of it, you know, to prevent molding. That's why I'm going to try it that way. And then I Googled, you know, can you absorb alcohol through your skin, right? This one's nothing, you can't pour alcohol on your skin and get drunk. You can use it as a disinfectant if there was nothing else to use, right? Those hand sanitizers, that type of alcohol is actually more dangerous than this kind of alcohol in terms of absorbing on the skin. So, and because it's so minute, right, in terms of the amount, shouldn't be a problem. So I'm just hoping that what I'm thinking and how I'm doing this, because I'm going to end up putting it in a little mason jar, and then I'm going to give one to my son, who by the way did say he'll help me with the bigger furniture pieces that I want to move down when that time comes. So that's good. Yeah, he came by to wish me happy birthday. So I'm going to give him a jar because his joints pop all over his body, his legs, his arms, everything. I don't know. I don't know why he's prone to that, but he can try putting, right, whatever I make, I'm going to give him some, like, cheesecloth of some kind, and then after you put it on, like, you know, put it on a piece of cheesecloth, spread it on, right, or something. Like, I'll end up, if I, you know, once I get sewing going, I mean, my life is up in arms here, right? Clearly, you can see that, right? But assuming I can get to the point where I'm actually can sew little things, do little things, let's just say that's the pad. So maybe make a special kind of pad with some sort of absorbent material on the inside. So it'd be 2 layers on the outside. Okay, so maybe 1 layer would be using like a tent material, where the inside would have an absorbent, like a cotton, like just a plain, like you would for diapers. You'd use that type of cotton, just straight up white cotton, right? And then on the outside, maybe more like a cheesecloth that has little, you know, holes in it, right? So, okay, so you've got 3 pads of something, and then you sew it, right? So that goes, let's just say, on your elbow, right? You see what I'm, right? So then you take whatever it is that I'm trying to make here, you spread it around. Maybe take a little spray bottle, spray it with a bit of water, right? Just to, right, to moisten up the pad or whatever. You put it on there. And then in that situation, you can either take gauze, and you can just kind of gauze it on, and just, right? Or you can take saran wrap, right? And just kind of wrap it around, just so it holds it in place for 20 minutes, half an hour. And then you take it off, you can rinse off, whatever. And then in a few hours or whatever, 4 or 5 hours later, you can still use this, and then this you can fold, put it in the bag, put it back in the fridge, right? Because it will still have properties in it, right? You take it back out. If you wanted to heat it up and make it warm, you could boil water, put it like in a steamer, you know, on top with the water boiling on the bottom to heat it up. So it's when you put it on, it's nice and warm, right? That'd be nice. And then you do the same thing, and you could use it over a few times. And then just add it on a little more, right? And then eventually, right, you've used it enough times, it would be simple to wash, air dry, and then do it again for wherever else you need. And depending on this, you know, like for Andre, you know, he needs it in here, right? So in that situation, you can either use that medical tape just to tape it on, right? Because right, just to hold it in place, you know? Yeah, that's what I'm working on. And because Comfrey helps to repair bones, and that, right? Ginger is an anti-inflammatory, right? So for popping of joints and stuff, that's what you want. A little anti-inflammatory. Same thing with turmeric, a little anti-inflammatory as well as healing properties, right? Ginger might give it a little bit of heat, but I'm not going to put a lot, right? I have to measure out after I grind up the Comfrey, or I'll measure, I should probably weigh it, honestly. I should weigh it. I should try and learn how to do this through weight. So maybe I'll take the time to weigh it as well as measure it per cup, or whatever, and just, you know, kind of work on fine-tuning a recipe, right? And it doesn't hurt to try, that's for sure. But yeah, if you break a bone or you fracture a bone and you want your bones to heal faster, scientifically, you know, those who, the pharmacare industry, those, right, they don't like to admit that Comfrey can repair bones. So they, there's not a lot of, I guess you could say, quote-unquote, legitimate studies out there to prove that point. But then maybe there is, I don't know. I just know that people that have used Comfrey to repair their bones, you know, they break a bone, they go to the doctor does whatever, and they got aches and pains, it's not healing as fast as it should, or as fast as everybody would like it to be, and so that, you know, they end up somewhere along the line using Comfrey, maybe not with the turmeric, maybe not with the ginger, but just straight up Comfrey, whether it's the leaves or the roots or whatever, the way I just explained it to you, and their bones heal so much faster, yeah, that even the doctors get surprised, as, you know, they're talking about, oh, I went to the doctor, right, I went to the doctor, and, you know, blah, 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 and, you know, my bones are really, really good, and they healed really, really fast, and the doctor's so surprised, and blah, 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 and so it's Comfrey has been used for thousands of years, people. Okay? I'm just saying. I like to keep these strings because they're nice and solid. Alright? You never know. Some, you know, growing tomatoes or whatever, you know. And then I just go like that, and then I go like that. Yeah. There you go. And then with these, you can make those little flatbreads with. And of course, I'll put these a little bit in a, oops, sorry. These are red whole lentils. You can only buy these from the farms. I don't even think you can buy these in a grocery store. When have you ever seen red lentils like this? You don't. Right? So if you want whole red lentils, go look at the farms and those kind of places. I suppose you probably could buy it off of Amazon or something, but the more you can go organic, the better. These were not organic, I don't think. But that's okay. Not everything has to be organic. Yeah, these are just red, right? You know. But they were grown in Canada, so. And, you know. So anyway, you can make those flatbreads with them. We'll see. I'll put some in a bag. Put that little bag in here. And after I deal with the fire department and just whatever, and I'm a little more whatever, then we'll sprout whatever we got in here. There's the 2011 chickpeas, some little mung bean or something in there. We've got the whole green lentils from 2011. We've got the whole green lentils from 2026. And now we're going to have the whole red lentils from 2026. And we're going to try and sprout them and see what happens. It would be very interesting to see. More than likely, these will sprout. More than likely. Right? But we won't know. I can't guarantee it until we try. So this is the bag I want to start with because I want to fill up this bucket. And then I got a bucket over there with beans and the flour or something. But I'm going to take out the flour and I'm going to put the better product in that bucket. So that will be 2 more buckets that will go downstairs because in this bucket, I was looking for it. I couldn't figure out where I had it. Was that Enoch corn, N corn or something, organic, ancient wheat, right? Ancient organic N corn wheat. So that one can go down after I get these in there, because I got 3 of those N corn wheats on the bottom, 1 green lentil on the top, and then 1 red lentil on the top. And then I got a bucket over there. I'm going to pull out, take out the flour, because it's probably that older flour that I was trying to salvage, which will be made for, what do you call that? Crafts. Twitch. To which, if you're doing paper mache, where am I? If you're doing paper mache, which I want to do with the kids, and I've got old flour for that. Remember I said we'll do the penny cup? Or you could do the dime, 5 cents. For every 5 cents you find, stick it in there. Right? Whatever. Okay. What you also could do, I have a fair amount of these because of vacuum sealing, right? And these are solid. Really, right? You can make, you know, what do you call those things? Kaleidoscopes. You can make kaleidoscopes. You can make a hello, hello, a horn. You know, these are things I want to do downstairs with my grandkids, right? And also, too, you can cut a hole in here, put that in there, put some beans in there, or little gravel rocks or something. Maybe beans. Put that in there like that. Put some hot glue to hold it in place, and then paper mache it, paint it, and then you have one of those shakers. That'd be a good craft. That'd be fun. Oh, and by the way, that smash and grab Rhea, she stole a lot of those little tea things that I had. I had a whole whack of them, and I hardly have any. She wiped me out. Yeah. Just like she took that pillowcase cover, because it was red flat sequins. The whole thing was a flat sequins, and it had a little design on it. It was like Japanese or something. Yeah, that's why she took the cover, because she was going for that fancy dancy fabric. Yeah, right. Anyway, she also took a lot of my specialty teas. Yeah. But that's okay. I can always replace them another day. Yeah. When Canadian Superstore has a sale and I can get PC points, that's when I'll spend $100 and get back $20 on my quote-unquote PC points. I'm not worried about it. Alright, so let me get on with this. Trying not to panic, because I'm just trying not to panic here. Okay, the cord for this camera, the extra spare, is downstairs. So if it blinks out, you know, what can I say? So if you're going to do stuff like this, which I highly recommend that you do, okay, like seriously, if you notice, they're I don't know what these people are doing. Well, I don't even want to call them people, man. I don't know what these individuals are doing in regards to the, you know, the demoralization of my quote-unquote character, and or whatever, right? In regards to, they act like I'm not responsible, you know. Like, you get penalized really for being responsible. Food prep, the more you can go with the long-term, like when I first started out, okay, when I first started out, and it works. You can do the paper bag, the lunch bag, the paper bag, or any kind of paper bag with the vacuum seal, and vacuum seal that up with or without oxygen absorber, like I did with those chickpeas from 2011 and yada-de-yada. And it works. Even if the bag gets a little punctured and whatever, it's still fine. But obviously, the longer that it can stay sealed, right, with or without an oxygen absorber, the better it is, right? So, you know, you know, I mean, you're gonna have to invest into something anyway. So I'm not saying you have to get Mylar bags and you have to get oxygen absorbers, but can mice even chew through a Mylar bag? Probably not. Where a mouse, if it really wanted to, could chew through plastic, the paper bag, and get into it. To which they actually did when my son and his wife put that stuff underneath the steps. Those plastic bags, because that was a hot spot for mice, right? They did start to chew through it. But honestly, I don't think they could chew through a Mylar bag. I really don't. Because they don't like to chew through Brillo and, you know, wool pads and that kind of stuff. So why would they want to try and... Because the Mylar bag is in part a little bit of aluminum. I think it's aluminum in combination with something and polyester, right? Or like there's two types of Mylar bags. There's the one with the more quote unquote metal in it compared to it's like a form of polyester. Either or it's not anything I don't think a mice wants to chew through. Now, if you notice, look at this. Do you see what happened here? I put 2 oxygen absorbers in there. And over time, that's what's happened. Right? It does that. Sometimes it does that with things. Sometimes it doesn't. With the wheat, not so much. It didn't do that. But, and I think I sealed these ones. I seal them too now with the flat iron. Okay? If you're going to put it away for long-term food storage, it's best if you take a flat iron and you seal the bag. It just melts together, right? Now, if you notice this one, though, look. But that's okay, because there's still oxygen absorbers in there, right? And it's sealed, right? And because you got it in a freaking bucket, ain't nothing getting to it, okay? Nothing. No. And I don't... this is a different kind of plastic compared to like a paint bucket plastic, which is softer. This is harder, so it would be very hard for a Norway rat, which is about the size of your fist, right, to be able to chew through this. Where if you used a paint bucket, I'm just using that as an example, with that type of lid, because it's a little softer, they can actually chew through, right? So keep that in mind. So we got 1 bag of the green lentils, right, in this bucket, 1 gallon size. And then we've got the 3 1 gallon size bags of that end corn wheat, organic. And now we're gonna do another 1 size gallon bag. If I can find it. See, I can do things. It's just everything's dark and gray, and translucents tend to blend together. Like, I can't see. Okay, I know you can see it, but I can't see it. I can see the shadow of it, but I can't see it definitely because they start to blend together, right? And then if the light, see here, like that, it's very hard for me to see this. Just, okay? But other than that, like, you know, I work around it. And what can you do? It just makes life hard, that's all. So we're going to use 1 size gallon for the red lentils. Right? Whole red lentils. Okay? Whew. And I had a pen. And of course I always lose those things. Oh my God. That one doesn't work very good. Oh my Lord. And I'm tired because this is, I think, my 9th day or 8th day straight, and I put in long hours. Long hours. I've been putting in really long hours. Here we go. Yeah. Yesterday was a really long day. Okay, so we're going to do... But I have to do this. I'm kind of running late on this one. But I have to. And I want to. I didn't buy them for bugs to get in them because they're sitting over there in a box. And you know, things crawl, spiders, whatever, right? Whole red lentils. And this came in February, I think, 2026. Okay. I would prefer a better felt pen, but that's okay. This is good enough. Yeah. I gotta be careful. I don't want to get a headache. It's kind of there, but not yet. Just because I've been working really hard. And, you know, you try and do the right thing for your family. You don't think just about one, you think about them all, you know, to one degree or another. And this is the thanks you get. But I'm going to try and take a negative and have it try and work in my favor by asking those questions, which I have 11 of them now for the fire department. Yeah. I have 11 questions, sir. Can you please answer them for me very quickly? Because I know you're busy. Whole red lentils. Yeah. So maybe we'll get a few questions. I'd like to start a little literacy program. Because I'm asking certain people over there to think about writing grants for the foundation, right? So you got to have your programs already in place before you write the grant, eh? And with some of these people that I meet, they don't speak English very well. Never mind read and write it. And they're very self-conscious about it, right? So when I went and got my little vodka, I met a fella that was only been in Canada for a year, and I asked him, well, isn't the government helping you to, maybe go to school or something to learn English? He says, yeah, I'm starting this month at some college. I said, oh, well, that's good. I said, well, keep me in the loop and let me know how it goes for you, right? If it's working out or not, because if it's not working out and you're not catching on to it, call me, right? Because, or go to James, and James will contact me, whatever. And I can probably hook you up with something. And we'll start with the very basics with phonics. Apple, ball, cat, sorry, da. Right? You listening, eh? I said, yeah, sometimes you have to take it right down to the very basics. And phonics is really the best. And if they're determined they want to learn how to read, well, for some people it comes really fast. Even if they're determined, for some people it takes a very long time. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So when you're doing stuff like this, right? Technically one of these little things in here should be enough. I already lost that too. One of these, I think, is 300 cc's. Or what, 500 cc's? I don't know. 500 cc's. So technically, one of these should be enough for one of these. But oftentimes I'll put like two in, or whatever. So what you want to do is get your bags ready. Everything filled up, all in a row, ready to go. And so that when you open that up, your oxygen absorber, you go from bag to bag to bag to bag, and you work as quickly as you can to get them in, seal them, next bag, get them in, seal them, and then eventually seal it with the hot iron, right? Because these don't like to be in the air for very long. And when you use them, you kind of want to use them all at once. Otherwise, you have to put them in another bag. Well, say if I used half, right? And I didn't need the other half. The best thing is to vacuum seal. You just don't fold it up and put it in a bag and think they won't absorb oxygen, because they will. Just make sure you have a vacuum sealer where you can take out, suck out, you have to suck out the air from an actual vacuum sealer and then seal it. And then whatever you have left will be usable again. Because, you know, things start to add up, right? You don't want to waste if you don't have to. Now, I'm going to leave the wheat in the bigger bags, and then for that bucket, because I have the 2-gallon buckets that as I can just put them in the 2-gallon buckets, where these red lentils would go in a 1-size gallon jar. So just makes it a little more practical to put them in 1-size gallon bags. And if you don't have the money to invest into Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, then make sure you vacuum seal with a vacuum sealer. Why is that one bigger? Huh. One is a little bigger. You can see that. There's a difference. I can't barely see it. I can feel it though. I can see the shadow of it. It's not bigger by much. But anyway. Alright. So I gotta focus. I'm kind of shaky today because I've been working too hard. Yeah. Okay. So I did it. Obviously you see better than I do. For you it's nice and clear and bright and vibrant. For me it's cloudy, dark, dull. I mean, I know looking through the lens, I got glasses on. Looking through the lens of the camcord, it's clear, right? In terms of not blurry. The colors of, I don't know if it's red or orange, I think it's red, is more prominent, but it's not vibrant. That lid is orange. I think those ones are red because I remember buying them and they were red. So anyway, and then of course, looking through the lens, I can see it being a little more defined, but it's still blurring together because of the silver, right? And just whatever. If I'm looking with my eyes without the glasses, it's just daunting, right? This pile is even worse. Either or, it doesn't matter. Okay, so the point is I got it done. So we got 5 bags of the red whole lentils and a little bit there. Now I have other ones in the house because when I was buying those 4-gallon jars from this company, which is Storehouse Foods, and they're in Alberta, and they're a farm, right? Though the jars, they came full with food, right? So that's how I got some extra ones kicking around. I took out them and put them into Mylar bags, and then I used the jars for something else, either or. Red lentils, you can make those little flatbreads, you can make cake with them. I'm pretty sure you could use them with muffins, right? Lots of things you can do with them. You could even probably make pierogies with these. and potato. Actually, that might be good with a bit of onion. I'm just saying. So 5 bags of that at 1 gallon per bag. And of course, there's Mickey, the gardener cat. Right, Mickey? A little extra, just kicking around. And then rye kernels, we got a big 2 gallon bag and 3 smaller bags, 1 gallon bags, right? And just a little bit. This is it. And then that. And I have a bucket with rye kernels in them, which should be still fine, as long as the no pests got in the bucket for whatever strange reason. I don't remember if I put oxygen absorber into the bucket when I put that rye in there, but either or, everything that I've opened up at whenever, which is whenever, I haven't had any problems yet. So, needless to say, I'm tired. So this thing, this with the fire department started on the 12th, I guess, of this month, and it's now the 22nd. So I don't know. And I'm looking back over the years, right? And like how hard I fought for Andre, eh? And I'm telling you, people, if I wouldn't have done what I did, in terms of they took him, Sierra had to go to court, you know, took her to court. I went and I got the application for custody. At that time it was called custody. I filled it out. I served Sierra and I served the Ministry of Children and Family Development. And because I served them on that day, as we were going into the first court thing, right, with Sierra and Austin, I guess, but it was mostly Sierra, right? I would never have gotten Andre. Nope. For the simple fact is, honestly, I don't think the government and the people that they employ want too many grandparents. I mean, maybe some. They always say, oh, we try and keep the family together, blah, blah, blah. There's too much money propping up these non-profit organizations that do quote-unquote foster care or whatever, right, in terms of sustaining that middle-class lifestyle, right? Gainful employment, whatever, however you want to call it, right? You know, keeps the judges busy, keeps the lawyers busy. It's a mainstay. It's like a staple to supplement their incomes and stuff. Because, you know, I mean, if you've been watching my videos, it's just like it just keeps going and going and going, right? I mean, the city of Surrey with the yard, well, that's a different gang stalking group with different agendas, right? Because, you know, there's different people that are involved with that, right? And but it all aligns with child apprehensions and all that stuff, because like when that social worker came, you know, and she was going on about the, you know, whatever they're doing out there in terms of quote-unquote property development, it's gotten worse out there when it comes to like the congestion and, you know, no place to park. You got to park 4 blocks away or 3 blocks away, or, you know, you're battling big trucks and walking over this and stumbling over that. You can't go there, whatever, right? You know, and I'm like, yeah, blame it on property development, but it's just a matter of time before it creates you as a quote-unquote child protective services social worker another job. Right? You get more jobs out of it because these people that are living in these houses with kids, they're going to get displaced, right? And if they're using this house, which is on the, you know, it's not a big house. It looks big from the outside, And sure, you know, I've got 60 years of belongings, and you have to remember when I moved in with two oversized U-Hauls. They weren't even U-Hauls. They were moving vans. The big ones, like we're talking big, not those little U-Hauls that you get from, you know, to rent for the day. No, we're talking big ass, like double the size of a U-Haul, right? Like standard moving U-Haul, right? Came in with two of them when I moved in here with everybody, because I had a full house, right? And then of course I had to buy things because I had a second kitchen and just whatever. And then I couldn't sew because I was in the yard, and I was the mule cleaning this and doing that and yada yada, and putting up with everybody's crap, and you know, trying to hang on with the non-profit stuff. So always had in my mind to, you know, either do a park event or whatever, but the yard was used against me, and you know, Uncle John was medically kidnapped, and you know, government didn't want me to go to court and have all my ducks in order with my paperwork and shit. So, you know, in comes the social workers, right? Because I'm looking back and I'm like, too many times, is it because they're trying to discourage grandparents from taking their kids? Because you get gang stalked. Like you do. Right? Because there's no money in it for their friends, their organizations, their certified organizations, or whatever it is. You know, they partner up with non-profit organizations so that the government doesn't have to pay the unions, right? It's called offloading. But if there's no kids, there's no organization. So they have to find them. They make it happen. And I don't think they want too many grandparents involved. I really don't, because holy crumb, looking back and like too many times, like a loose screw. Like, why are you here? Oh, well, we got a call about a loose screw on a rail that's dangerous. It's dangerous for Andre to walk on those stairs because of a loose screw. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, how does that even make any sense? So they went out there and they looked at it. And then they talked to him a little bit and then they ran off. But it's that, like that city of Surrey coming to the yard. Well, why are you here? It's like, you know, March or April or something. Well, it's too gray. We got a complaint that it's too gray in your yard. Well, what do you mean it's too gray? It's freaking, like, not even, we just getting out of winter here. Nothing's blooming, right? You know, like, how do you expect there to be anything of color, including whatever you're looking for when it's the offset of gray, right? Right? And it's just, or they show up because it's too green. What the hell? It's too green. When my landlady came with her son with that bin crap, get rid of everything, as they hid behind the city of Surrey, knowing damn well that what they were doing is right, wrong, and one hand feeds the other, but they weren't feeding me. They were feeding each other in terms of my landlord with the city of Surrey, and the city of Surrey feeding the landlord. Well, my landlord's son is a realtor. Figure that one out. She's a realtor. And they manipulate the market on a local level, not the national market of housing sales and stuff, but local, right? They can manipulate the local market to overinflate rents and overinflate the sale, the house price, you know, the asking price to sell the house, because, you know, they come in with their property developments, which are family members to the ones that are overinflating. Like, it's a racket, right? And yeah, you know, like, and I'm like, I don't think they want too many grandparents, because if I wouldn't have done what I did, I would never have been a party to the proceedings. And I couldn't have been able to come in after the fact of those first days of Andre being illegally apprehended. Right? But by the grace of God, I got that information. I was told what to do, because if I didn't do it, my grandson would be gone in 18 months up for adoption, because that's how fast that crap happens. Because it's not unusual to have happen what happened to Andre, because that's what's been happening in this province. And that came from a lawyer. Said, sorry, I can't help you, but you need to help yourself. You go file the papers, right, for custody, and you serve the ministry, right? And of course I had to serve Sierra, but Sierra was already in agreement with it. But the ministry played games with her, right? You know, they were arguing and tried to make her think something that wasn't true, and then they made it hard. Oh my God, you don't even know. So, you know, and then of course I went to try and go get legal aid, but I was denied because I was a grandmother. So I had to stand there and represent myself. So what does that tell you? If they tell you that they try and keep families together, if they take a child from so-and-so, they'll give to another family member. If that's the case, why wasn't I able to get legal aid? Because they didn't want me there. Because the agenda, the undercurrent, was to try and adopt out Andre. Because he was cute. He was tiny. He was young, moldable. He had blondish curly hair. He looked white. Right? You know what I'm saying? And yeah. So 3 months, 4 months into it, after going to court for a few times, we were in front of another judge. And that's when I brought in the bells for Andre. And I made those big books, right, for the judge to look at, with pictures and everything. And so I was going to take it to the Supreme Court too as well, right? And the judge said, go get, you know, we were debating custody. And he said, well, you already have custody. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, how's that possible? If that's the case, why don't I have Andre if I already have custody? I think what he meant was Sierra had already agreed to give him to me. And because I had filled out the paperwork, somehow, I don't know. And I said, well, he goes, well, you know, like, you need to go get a lawyer because you already have custody. And I'm like, well, how is that possible? Because that's not what I'm being told. And I don't qualify for a lawyer because when I did go to legal aid, they denied me. And he said, well, whatever, just go try it again. He said, go put the application in again. So I did, right? And I got approved, but it went to the higher-ups in Victoria. Now why? Because I was a lowly grandmother. Yeah, I was a lowly grandmother fighting for my grandson, and they didn't like it. So they denied access to legal aid to keep me away from being a party to the proceedings. But because I had a lawyer who advised me to get that paperwork in ASAP, the minute I take Sierra to court to deal with her crap, I serve the ministry with my crap. And that's the only thing that saved Andre. Yeah. But it was a big price to pay. For me. A really big price to pay. And then, of course, with Amari, because I'd already gone through it with Andre, I kind of knew what to do. So when Julian showed up after killing Shimei the next day, I just served him with custody papers. And he had to go to court. And because Amari was already in my care. And they did. Julian and his mom and his sister, they called social services on me. Yeah. But social services, those social workers, they weren't interested in truth-seeking. Nope. They weren't interested in protecting Mari from an alcoholic, drug-addicted freaking drug dealer who killed Shemaine. They didn't care about that. No. They tried to suggest that Shemaine was partying 12 days before going to college and killed herself. And then they quietly bowed out of court and just told the judge, we're washing our hands of it and we're letting Judy deal with the father. Yeah. Which put Mari at risk to being passed around like a rag doll. And then they dropped him like a hot potato. And then tried to blame me for it. Because they couldn't cope that he wasn't developing normally. Yeah. And Julian had already abandoned him. Got that on recording, people. From somebody that was there and witnessed it. Yeah. But looking back, and I'm like, too many times, doesn't make no sense. Outside of, I don't think that they want too many grandparents having their grandkids. I really don't. And that's why they make it difficult for grandparents and stress this out as much as they do. I got an itchy throat. I gotta get some water. Okay, so I think I'm gonna finish this video here very soon. I'm just working on now switching buckets around. So I went next door, right, to talk to the guys, eh? Because when I went to go get that vodka, I met somebody that offered to take me to Africa for a few weeks. Asked me if I'd go, right? And I thought about it, eh? And anyway, I asked Andre. I said, Andre, would you like to go to Africa? I asked him today, right? You know, would you like to go to Africa? And he thought about it. He said, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I went and I go talk to James, right, the board director, and whoever else is around, you know? They know me long enough now. And I put it on the table. Well, I tried to put it on the table that, you know, through member dues, blah, 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 blah. It ended up turning into this huge argument that kind of went off everywhere like a freaking rocket, you know, like a what is that called? Like fireworks. Just, right? Conversation over here, just whatever. Anyway, long story short, you know, I told him, if I survive whatever is going on with me right now, with this, because I'm such a bad person, I'm crippled, or maybe I'm just a grandmother. How about that? Trying to hold down the fort still after all these years. Anyway, I said, if I survive this storm, you know, we need to up the ante in terms of encouraging people to become paying paying members to the foundation, work on program development. My friend, Mr. Desert Kalahari, I think I'm pronouncing that correct. I already kind of wung it by him because he's more business-minded, right? To, you know, help with maybe some grant writing. He's saying I need to use that AI stuff. I say, well, I can't because, you know, whatever, it's too hard, right? Blah. And I'm stuck on floppy disks with my XP and Windows 7 when I'm not working on a different operating system through my various computers in the house, right? That are old school. As if I want to sit there and, you know, start whatever, or trying to learn new technology. I can't. And so anyway, in the end, for all that sparking of, I guess it's a good thing that it just kind of went off like a fire, like a fireworks. Everybody had an opinion, and boy, oh boy, it was on. And I'm like, ugh. And because I'm like this, asking questions, so that, you know, because, you know, I sit here and I do this stuff, and I'm like, well, yeah, why not bring in an incentive where paying members to the foundation, right, through membership dues, one couldn't, after a certain threshold was met in terms of money being saved for that incentive, where we can reward somebody within that group a trip to Africa with a traveling partner, whether that's a family member, a husband or a wife or whatever, right? In my case, it would be like Andre and me. Oh, I don't think I could take Amari there, but, you know, Andre would like to go. The only thing is, I'm a board director, so if I was able to facilitate such a program, because it'd be a form of a program for mental therapy, for spiritual therapy, because a lot of people come here from Africa and they're so disconnected from their countries that, you know, there's sorrow there, right? And it would be nice to be able to have somebody pay for your airfare with a partner to go, right? A friend or foe. Not a friend, but I mean, not a foe, but a friend, right? Or, you know, whatever. Whoever they choose to travel with. In my case, if I was to win, I'd take Andre. The only thing is I'm a board director. So if we ever got to that point, and I told this to James, you couldn't be in the winning group. We can't win. We can't. We have to pay for ourselves to go to Africa. But we could fundraise however we do it, whether it's through member dues, doing this, that, selling hats, whatever. Do you take a percentage, right? For spiritual, it's like, you know, how the Muslims go to Mecca once a year or whatever. It's just for spiritual healing, to connect with their families that, you know, are back home. And yeah, so anyway, oh, and then everybody, oh, you don't listen. I listen more than you think, right? Anyway, so what I'm doing now is we got this bad boy all done. So that's got the organic in-corn wheat, several bags of that, 1 bag of whole green lentils, as well as 1 bag of whole red lentils. So that's good. Yeah. Now, that's what gets me into trouble. So now we got this bucket, which is about that big, that, you know, I'm going to repurpose here. And what I got in here are some dates that I bought to make date square, or those fancy desserts that I want to make for Amari when the kitchen downstairs open up. And then we've got real wasabi powder. Oh yeah, because, you know, the stuff that you normally get is horseradish. This is not horseradish. This is actual wasabi powder. Oh yeah. I paid $40 for that. But that was a long time ago. What else is in here? Oh, just a few other little miscellaneous things, so they can come out. We're going to be making homemade sushi too. Assuming that things don't implode, because I'm not feeling that secure here with anything that I'm doing. You know that. Too busy running around beating myself up, trying to prepare for the worst. And, you know, Not sign up for maid. Yeah. Okay. Oh, my Lord. It's amazing how much I put my body through. Like, I just felt a little pain right there just from doing that. But that's all I feel. It's gone now. It's not too bad for an old person like me for as hard as I work. Yeah. Okay, so before you repack, you want to make sure there's nothing in the bucket. Because you know those moths, they sneak in there, right? If they can't get into the bag, they'll breed in the bucket and live off whatever they can live off until it runs out. Yeah. These buckets are pretty good. I like them. So anyway, when it comes to that poultice that I'm making, I think that will just go into the next video. I will start fresh with that one. Because I have to grind up the comfrey root and yada yada. So we'll just try and maybe start fresh. Whew, with that. Now I have a choice. There's a bucket here that's a 5-gallon that I can empty out. It's got old flour in it and beans. And I should put the rye into one. So what we're going to do is we're going to put red whole lentils in here. And based on my experience, I should be able to get 3 1-gallon bags of that. Right? 3 bags should fit in, hopefully with no problems. Yeah. I don't like putting them in the buckets already pre-done and all that, but it's kind of hard to try and seal these things up when they're in the bucket, because sometimes you have to, you fill them tight, but they don't necessarily conform into the bucket as well as you'd like them to be this way versus putting the bag in the bucket and then filling it up and having everything, and then you go like that so everything settles, and then it just all kind of forms together nice, right? Versus, yeah. So let's try this bag. This one's not so bad. So hopefully we can get this in here. Without too many problems. Now, oh my God, we can do this, and then I'm going to end this video. Exercising, right? So anyway, we all did a meeting of the minds, right? We got a new project on the sewing table when the sewing table is set up. So I ain't gonna spill the beans on it just yet. I'm gonna stay quiet on that one. Yep. So that's good. Somebody's motivated to do something. Yeah. And I just wish I didn't have to dwell on the negative in terms of the negative of my life. The guy that I'm asking to write grants for, his idea of, now he's obviously a successful businessman, so he wouldn't understand, because they say, oh, well, you've had the foundation for 25 years. Why haven't you been successful? Well, I don't know. Maybe because I've had to face institutional racism from my government. That's the first thing. There's that old saying, manufactured poverty. You would want to keep a thumbs down on what I was trying to do on 2 national levels. So, and then of course there's racism within the Caucasians, the Punjabis, Chinese, and so on and so on, because, you know, I've got the word African written into the mandate constitution of the foundation, to which when you're coming in not African and you read the constitution, people pull away because of the word African, because in their minds they think that that's all I'm catering to when I wrote the Constitution, which is not true, right? The word African goes back as far back as you can go, where we all originated from one continent, to which it's been, what, proven? Is that up for debate? That it all came from Lucy, from the continent, basically where Africa is when it comes to that carbon dating. Yeah. But people don't want to see it like that. They want to pick their fight, and they side with the flock, the color of the feathers, from where they think they belong, and therefore they don't feel obligated to anybody else outside of, you know, anyway, I don't want to get into that. All right, so we got them in. Wonderful. That's wonderful. And that was what, the green lentils? Yeah. So we got one bag there, one bag in that bucket, 3 here. There should be 4. So yeah, here's another one. So there's 4. All right. So before I go too far, because I get, you know, overworked and I don't want to forget. So I gotta find to write. What do I do with it? Oh my God. And these I need to put somewhere else now. Yeah. Oh my God. Where did I put them? I don't know. Okay. You see, these guys, they don't understand how wound up I get, right? They know I'm like, you know, I don't know, they had said some kind of word, right? It, you know, high-strung, stressed out, aggressive. It's not that I'm aggressive. It's just mother of 5, worked on a nonprofit for years. You know, I had to put myself out there in the line of fire so that the attention was on me and not on the kids, and to defer away from pedophiles that use me to get to the kids, or whatever. Never tried to exploit kids when I used to do all the community stuff that I did. So, you know, yeah. Okay, so this is good. If you're going to get into food prep, these are the buckets you want. I'm telling you, they're the best. Oh, you could exercise with this. Oh, yeah. Actually, it's just the right weight for me. How many of these can I do before I get tired? How many you think? I don't even know how many I've done so far. Whew. I could probably do this for a while, because I'd breathe myself through it. I can't guarantee that my trapezoids wouldn't be feeling sorry tomorrow, because that's not normally a muscle that I exercise. But, okay, all right. I think the trapezoids, I ended on trapezoids. I think the trapezoids is this muscle in here. The trapezoids, because when I was doing that, it was pulling in here. And that's not really a muscle that I ever really work with. But I felt it there. Yeah. So now, I have to start pulling out buckets. So I gotta pull out and start taking this down a little bit. Because you know that's a heat score. You got boxes up there! Yeah, I know. Because I use them. If I put them out on the porch, they get ruined. And I really don't have no other place to put them, so I put them there. But I'm coming to the end of my game when it comes to food prep, or anything for that matter. So it's not like I need to be having too many boxes around these days. But with me taking shit downstairs now, I actually do need them. Right? So, between now and the next couple of days, this will be down to half, because I'm going to end up taking everything out. If somebody came into the yard, threw something green on the window, gooey and green, and they threw something gooey and green downstairs too, in the garage. Yeah. So why they would do that, I don't know. But besides that point, that's the bad boy we want. We want this bucket for that stuff.